Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over my last round game from the September Metrowest Chess Club. Coming into this round, I had 2.5 out of 3, and so I was battling for first place. My opponent was Sebastian Gula. He's played in tournaments abroad and had credible results, so I was a little bit worried going into this game. So let's see how things went. I had the white pieces. Things opened up with d4. He responded in kind. And it looks like we're playing for the Queen's Gambit here. He plays a little finesse bishop e7, which is like sometimes played to get this knight to go to f3. This way in the Queen's Gambit lines, like, you don't have to worry about the knight ge2 variation. But it turns out I had no intention of playing bishop g5 anyway. I tried to steer the game into a Catalan. So both sides, I guess, are happy with how this opening has gone. In this position, he played d takes c4. What's funny about this move is I spent a lot of time preparing for this game, and it was only in the last few hours that I considered this line, and literally in the last hour of prep that I came up with something for Black's next move. So it shows you, for want of a nail, the battle was lost. If I didn't put that prep work in, this game may not have worked out so well. So after castles, he played the move which concerned me, which is knight c6. This is similar to a Chigorin, where Black will play knight to a5 here and try to hold on to the pawn. And of course, if I play something like knight to d2, then the d pawn drops. Queen takes d4 or something. So I talked before about what do you do when you're afraid. And perhaps there's one thing I forgot to mention, which is that how hard do you work when you're at the board? For me, I decided before this game I was going to work as hard as I possibly could. That means I don't leave the board. I sit down at the board when the game starts, and I don't leave until it's over. And I'm thinking on my time. I'm thinking on my opponent's time. I'm giving this game everything I have, you know. So I basically outworked my opponent. He was getting up and walking around and seeing how other games were going, and I was not. And I think that was the difference between the two of us in this game, because he's a very good player. I basically outworked him at the board. And so when you're afraid, one thing you can do is just make up your mind you're going to work as hard as you possibly can. So I want to regain the pawn, so I protect d4 so I can play knight to d2 and knight takes c4. And as promised, Black says I'm going to hold on to the pawn. So I came up with this pawn sack actually before the game started. It's apparently a well-known idea in the Catalan. So you attack the knight to force it to do something, and he defends it. And now you give up attempts to regain the pawn, because knight d2 is going to be hit with b5 anyway. So you just say, well, let's open up some lines here. And so you go b4, c takes b, a takes b. And we have some pressure on the queen side now in exchange for our gambited pawn. Black defends the knight, and I played b4. This is all part of the plan. And here I played a good move. I think that queen takes c6 lets the initiative drop. One thing that I learned, especially from Bobby Fischer's games and others, is that when you gambit a pawn, like, you're playing for the big game, right? Don't be in such a hurry to recover your sacrificed material. focus instead on mobilizing all your troops. And so the way you really put pressure on black is knight e5. And that's what I did. Now we have this bishop coming in on this diagonal. The knight's bearing down on c6. It's a very promising position for white in exchange for his sacrificed pawn. And here black already makes a mistake. I think he probably has to play something like bishop d7. Let's see what the computer says. Alright, either b5 or bishop d7, right? You basically accept the fact that white is winning the pawn back. But instead he tries to hold on to it, right? And already the white pieces are running into the black position here. So I, of course, visualized all this some moves ago because I'm working very hard at the board, and it really paid off here. I don't know, it's been a while since I worked this hard at the board, anyway. So this comes in. You have to protect the bishop. Perhaps queen d7 is best, but he went queen e8. Now I went knight to b5, which threatens to the fork here on c7, so he feels the need to defend that square now. And a basic rule of thumb is that when you have the better developed position like this, you want to take every opportunity you can to open lines. So I choose this opportunity to play d takes c5, which allows the rook to come into d1 with tempo on the queen here. So he tries to murk things up. And so I get things out of the way here. Now apparently here I had a crushing move, which is c6. He can't play queen takes b5 anyway because the rook is pinned, and that's just going to be a murderous pawn. But I played a pretty good move, which is knight to d6. He takes the pawn, I recapture. And now he goes queen c7. So these may not be the best moves, but they're good moves. Like this pawn on c6 puts a tremendous cramping influence on black's whole queen side. And so after this position, I have all my men mobilized, and I have every reason to hope for advantage. After rook b8, I decided for the easygoing bishop takes f6. I was confident that with a shattered king side, I'd be able to combine threats on both sides of the board. But the relentless computer suggests bishop to c3 with the idea of bishop to a5 is better. But anyway, I opted for bishop takes f6. And now we continue to mobilize unused pieces. The rooks are coming to useful and natural squares. Black here played a good move. He's worried about queen to g4, but at least he has rook g5 available if he needs it. So I just keep bringing in my my pieces here. e5 is a mistake because it cuts the rook's access to g5 off. So here I played a move which is kind of one of my favorites. Like I like to do this type of move all the time. It's a type of move that's very easy to forget about when you're defending against this, and that is the queen sweeps from one side of the board to the other. I love this type of a move. Like it's a hard move to see coming, right? And certainly one of my ideas is bishop to e4, bearing down on h7, right? To say nothing, a queen takes f6. So he defends the pawn, and I did follow up with bishop to e4. However, it turns out that I had something even better, apparently. Instead of bishop to e4, it seems that bishop to h3 is a better move. And you say to yourself, what is the difference between the two? Well, it turns out that, I can best highlight it by showing a concrete example. If he trades bishops, okay, and now he plays a natural move to try to round up the pawn. The issue here is that I can play rook to c4, okay, and by virtue of trading off these bishops, all of a sudden I'm actually threatening checkmate in one move of rook g4. Well, it's actually not checkmate, but it would be a king h8, rook h5 is a murderous attack, right? So that's the point, is that this rook lift is available, and there's no piece guarding g4, and so bad things are going to happen. f5 doesn't do anything; you just take it, right? So black can already resign this position. So I opted for bishop e4 directly, which keeps an advantage, but it's not quite as clear-cut as before. And the basic problem with this is, although later I follow up with queen h5 and bishop f5, but it prevents this crushing rook to c4, rook to g4 idea, which I might have had before. So black opts for a second best defense here. Apparently best is h6, but he plays rook h8. And now I continue with the right idea, which is queen h5, and we're going to follow up with bishop f5, and maybe the rook lift idea is back on again. By the way, a move like queen h5 is kind of a quiet, creeping move, and sometimes those are the hardest moves to find. I was kind of proud of myself for finding queen h5. It's a good move, you know. It's not so much the spectacular combination that's hard to find. And sometimes it's a quiet little move like queen h5 that is really, to me, is like what stands out. So after a few more moves, rook b4, bishop f5, rook b6, at least trying to distract me by trying to pick up that pawn. I opted for queen g4 check, because if he goes to the back rank, something like king f8, then there's not enough guys guarding c8. So instead he goes the other way. He goes king h6 so that he can at least leave c8 guarded. So I traded off this bishop, and he took back with the queen. And one thing I've learned is that whenever black has like an unsafe king, or the other side is an unsafe king like this with heavy pieces on the board, it is out of the question to ever trade queens. You don't even consider queen takes c8. Like that, black would breathe happier by half if you did that. You always want to keep the threat against the king in play. You never trade queens in a situation like this. So I remember that, and I kept the queens on the board, king g7, and then I followed up with a natural move, c7. And after one more move, queen b7, I followed up with this check, and my opponent resigned. There's basically no good defense to queening the pawn on the next move here. So as a result of this game, I actually won the tournament with 3.5 points out of 4, and my rating increased to 2064. And I was pleased because I met my fears in this game by the good old-fashioned idea of working at the board as hard as I can, never leaving it, calculating both on my time and my opponent's time. Basically, I met my fears by putting in hard work, and that work proved to be very successful. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you'll be playing in the tournament again in the near future. Take care. Have a great day.